All right. Good morning, or actually good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what parts of the world you are in. This is Dr. Tina Welsum from the Key Publishing House, and I'm so excited to be joined with today by one of the authors of The Transformation Within, Uzma Naqvi. She is a life coach, and she's here today to share a little bit about who she is and what she does, and maybe give us a little teaser about what her chapter's about. But I'm so thrilled to introduce you to Uzma. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here, Tina. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And I appreciate you joining us. And I'm so excited for people to get to read your chapter in the book and to learn from the wisdom that you've gained as you've gone through transformation in your own life. So I'd love to start with that kind of at the beginning, is just, what that word transformation or the concept of transformation means to you, if you would share that with us.
Sure. Again, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been quite an incredible journey, just, writing this chapter and being a part of this amazing venture. So really, really grateful to be with you. So I think that's a really deep question, and one that one can elaborate on for such a long time. But transformation in general terms, like when you think about it in terms of what it does in your life, it's a shift of a perspective, like an irreversible shift of an awakening that happens. And it really involves experiencing this deep structural shift. And it really shifts everything about the way that you think, the way that you feel, the way that you act and behave around others. And there's a shift in consciousness and how you use it. And that dramatically changes the way that you view things, view life, view people, view experiences. And therefore, everything becomes different, even though it's the same to the outside world. And to me, as I've gone into my own journey, I've learned about two beautiful concepts of Japanese concepts called Kensho and Satori. Kensho being growth and awakening through pain and suffering, and Satori being growth through insight and learning. And if I'm really honest, Tina, my personal transformation has been through Kensho, which is through slow, pain and suffering for a very long time, until it made me question my entire existence and really kind of dive within myself to find the meaning of life.
Yeah, I love that. And I think your point about how it's kind of irreversible, like once you have seen behind the curtain, or once you've gone past that point of pain or suffering, you can't really go back, or you can, but why would you? Why would you sit in that muck when there's the possibility of, a new place of growth and space that you can move into? So I love that.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So that brought you into coaching, and how would you kind of describe yourself as a coach, or what is your philosophy, and who do you work with? What is your passion with coaching?
Yeah, well, as with most coaches, I started with an aim to help everyone. I just wanted to help people out of pain, and that was my main motivation. I just knew that being on the other side was just a horrible experience, and why stay there when you know that you can be in a completely different place? So that was the beginning. But I very soon realized that there were certain type of people that gravitated towards me, and they were people like me, people who could relate to me. So this was hugely helpful, because I didn't know about niching and all of that, and it just kind of happened very automatically for me. And the specific type of person, the specific type of problems and issues that people were coming to me for. And it ended up being Muslim women, which is obviously who I am myself. And these are women who were absolutely certain that there is more to life than what they are living, who maybe have along the way lost a sense of self and feel maybe emotionally completely burdened, or can't really seem to know the way out. They know there is a way out, but they don't know what the way out is. So there is this element of knowing. There is a consciousness that I need to do something different, but not quite sure on how. And most importantly, women who know that they want to heal deeply, connect to their inner core, know their authentic self. And the most important element of all of this is that everything that you learn about yourself, connect that to the source, the knowing that God is connected to you at all times. So for me, everything rests on my faith. And I know that this is also true for the people that come to work with me. So in our journey, we explore layers of consciousness, and then we gravitate towards God consciousness, and all that while gaining crystal clarity on every aspect of their lives, their mind, their body, their soul, spirit, their relationships, their career, their purpose in life. So I would say it's a very wholesome journey of total transformation. So that's why I call myself a holistic transformational life coach, which is kind of incorporating every aspect of the person and kind of connecting it back to the source. So that's how it's structured.
I think that's probably why I resonated and gravitated towards you so much at the beginning, because that's very similar to my 8 keys of wellness, and that, there's who we are, and then there's all these elements of ourselves. So we have to be whole in order to then interact with the people in the world and our spaces around us. And I think that's so true. And I think, from my physical therapy background, it's about evaluating, examining a patient, evaluating them, doing for them, right? Making changes for them. And I love in the coaching space that we really get to be more that guide. And like you said, you found you wanted to help everyone, and we all do, right? Because we don't want anybody to have the pain that we've had, but being able to really like shine that light and guide people that are coming from a similar place as you down the path that you've been on, and kind of, showing them the way, because you know how hard it was to find that way for yourself. So that's so important.
Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of draws you to this, or what makes you such a strong believer that this works, that this is the way?
Well, Tina, I'm a great believer in what I do because, exactly like you mentioned, I've seen and felt and experienced the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how difficult, how much of a heartache, how much of almost like a slow death process that you kind of have to go through every single day and not know the next step. And that's a really dark place to be. And all while this is happening, you've still got to function as an individual. You've still got to go out and work. You've still got to go out and face the world and bring up children, even in the mix of everything else. So life doesn't stop for you while you're suffering. And I know what it can feel like. And often what we do as women is that we kind of create this inside life, which is almost like broken to the brink. And then the outside, where we're kind of well put together and everyone thinks it's all good and we've got it worked out. And that's where I was. And as women, generally, I think we wear so many hats. Mm-hmm. And because we live in this world that is so extremely fast paced, and in the middle of all these different titles that we have to wear, we often forget who we are and what we came here to do. And without this awakening, without this real insight, without the consciousness, we wouldn't really ever reach the true purpose of life. It's profound, because one of my coaches used to ask this question regularly on all the different groups that he used to have. And he would say, where in the world do you think is the greatest and the biggest amount of potential? Mm-hmm. And people would answer like lots of different places in the world where there's a lot of capital and lots of revenue and different things like that. And he would say, no, it is in the graveyard 6 feet under. This really makes me sad to think about that, how many people are unconscious about the inner universe, the potential that they carry, and they leave this world often without ever realizing it. And not only do they suffer during their lifetime, but the world suffers because they haven't played out their part, and we didn't get to see what they had to offer. And that's a really sad fact that we have been living with. And I think there has been a shift. There's a shift happening in the atmosphere, in collective consciousness. There's something happening where we are awakening as a human race. We are starting to have discussions that we absolutely didn't have back, like, even 2 decades, a decade ago even. So each one of us carry this huge amount of potential and purpose. And if we all strived towards that, the world would absolutely be a much, much better and a more peaceful world to live in, I think.
Yeah, I so agree with you. One of the tenets I've always lived by is that we all have existing untapped potential that lives within us. And so when you were saying, where do you think this potential lives? And everybody was looking externally. my answer was going to be it lies within us. And you're saying, what a waste if we don't recognize that while we're here alive with the possibility to show up that way, not only for our own lives and our own families, but like you said, for the whole world, because healthier people are going to create a healthier world space for all of us.
100%,
I love that. So when people work with you, what kind of services do you offer?
So, this whole thing with like launching a business and becoming a coach, if I'm really honest with you, I really, I never thought about owning a business. I'm literally the first person in my family to have ever start something like this. And it literally landed on my lap so unexpectedly. And it literally was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I would never, ever look back. And because I was living a very painful, unconscious way of life, I didn't know what I was doing or where I was headed. And as I in the chapter, as people would read, that I'm starting to share the journey of that painful, and then how it leads you to self-search and find out. As I embarked on that journey, and the more I healed, it wasn't like a one-day decision. Every time I felt this something inside of me, like this is now a duty. Like I carry something that I have to transfer, and if I don't, it would be a very heavy burden on me. So now, moving from pain, I'm not carrying a different burden. It's very enlightening. It's very beautiful, but it's a burden nevertheless. And I felt like I had to, and I think within my faith, there's a beautiful thing about serving the creation, and it really matched and resonated with my faith too.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't really hold on anymore.
Yeah.
And I think
I think as coaches, we always talk about like the power of language, right? So you were saying you were carrying this pain and now it's kind of this burden. Is it a burden, or is it more like a responsibility or a duty or a calling? More of a, because I feel like burden sounds awful and heavy, yet what I'm feeling from you is so light and giving and life sustaining. So I'm just curious if a different word maybe.
Absolutely. You put it beautifully. Maybe I didn't articulate it, as well as you did. So I knew that there was something on my chest, because I now knew that I didn't have to exist that way for like so many decades of my life.
Yeah.
And I know, even personally, I knew at the time so many women that were living in the same kind of a pit.
Mm-hmm.
And I now had tools to give to them. And that's how it started, really kind of naturally having conversations with people I knew, people who trusted me. So I feel like I was a coach all the time, even before I was, even when I was suffering myself, I was really able to give advice. So and I've always been an extroverted person. And if I had something I like to share, I like to give. So that was innately in me. And it just felt so right that when this started happening and I started having this, like a calling, as you so beautifully put it, I felt that I really needed to pass this on. And that's where it kind of started. And it became more and more and more every time I put more emphasis and energy into it. So
I love in Gay Hendricks' works, he talks about our zone of competence, our zone of excellence, and then our zone of genius. And I think it is always so amazing to me when people make that shift and get into that space where they're really thriving and glowing and just loving and passionate and in the flow of what they're doing, like you are. And it's like, I had this thing and I've always done it. And now I see it and I'm aware of it and I embrace it and I can actually, capitalize on it, not only for me to enjoy my day more, but for me to change the world in a whole different space. And I think that's that magic that you're talking about, that, that unfulfilled potential that people don't know is there. And when they do, it's like, oh, it was always this simple. Certainly. Now you're you. Like, you've really stripped away all the masks and all the responsibilities and all the things that weren't really your genius. And now you get to be in this place that, is your calling and is going to help so many people. So it's so beautiful to see.
Thank you. I think that's very powerfully put. And I think I agree with it 100%. Yeah.
Thank you. So can you tell us the title of your chapter, or maybe the theme of your chapter, and kind of give our future readers a little hint or a tease about what they're going to hear more of from you in the Transformation Within book that is coming out in November?
Yes. So it's something I'm really excited about. You know how I felt as soon as you approached me, I was like, definitely gonna do this. So I named my chapter The Journey to the Universe Within Me. Because this chapter talks about snippets of the pathway to the awakening and what I had to do to like kind of heal and all of that. And also because as you know, I'm writing a solo book, which is called The Universe Within Me. And that's my kind of painful story of how I got to a point where I needed to do something different. So it kind of covers the bit that was missing from the solo book. So I thought this was a great opportunity to get in the part that was missing. I've kind of covered it within this. And also because I think it's really important to mention some of the setbacks. It's a really exhausting process trying to find the right people when you're healing. Yes. And there's so much out there, and it's mind-boggling, and especially when you're going through anxiety or depression or different pressures and pain and suffering and whatever else you're going through, to find the right person in the midst of all of that, it's very chaotic. So I knew as I was starting to build something that I wanted to offer something that it doesn't send people in every direction, and people have to go and knock on every door. I wanted to make it a very wholesome experience, so they kind of come under one roof and go through a whole transformation and every aspect of their life, rather than kind of being here and there. So although this chapter kind of talks about my healing process, it also talks about how it's transformed into being something that really supports people's journey into their healing, and so they can think about it in a very wholesome, holistic way.
I love that. I've been seeing sneak peeks of everybody's chapters as they've been filtering in. So I know that people are going to love your chapter. You got a testimonial over here from your co-author, Greg Spector, who said he was fortunate to get a peek at your chapter, and it's a powerful one. So you got a testimonial there already on what you've written. And I think for those of you watching or who see this on the replay, if the things that Uzma's talking about are resonating with you, and I hope they are, because I know they certainly do with me. I think, get ready to buy The Transformation Within in November and get a read at her chapter. She will also be presenting some more, a deeper dive in the Transformation Within Summit that will be coming after the book launch. And as she mentioned, she has her own book, The Universe Within Me. So you can really go on her big journey with her. And if you'd like to work with her, she's there and ready to help you. So thank you so much for talking to me today about who you are and what you're bringing to the book. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you and to work with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Feeling is absolutely mutual, Tina.
Thank you. Everybody have a good day, and we will be back with more authors. So stay tuned.